This is Jerome Corsi, and today is Wednesday, June 24th, 2024. 24 is there, that's good. I am on X at Corsi Jerome 1, at CORSI JEROME, all together, small letters, 1, the number 1. And Substack, we started a new Substack. I'm going to be putting quite a bit of new information on it, on various topics, including abiotic oil. Probably come out with a book later this year on abiotic oil. And you can go get me on Substack at Jerome Corsi PhD, all together, .substack.com. Jerome Corsi PhD.substack.com. Okay, well, clearly the first story today is that Donald Trump won the primary in New Hampshire by double digits. And Nikki Haley got, I think, about 70% of her votes, they're saying, came from independents and Democrats. New Hampshire has a crossover election where you can choose whichever primary you want to vote in. If you're a Democrat, you don't have to vote in the Democratic primary. So it was a big win for Trump again, and he pounded Nikki Haley. She is largely getting funded by Democrats, very heavily funded by some of the dark money that go into these campaigns, and the Democrats are good at this. And they are supporting Nikki Haley because they want to make it more difficult for Trump, narrow his margin. He doesn't win these all by a landslide. They're going into South Carolina next for the primary, and that's where Nikki Haley is from. So she is touting that she should do well in South Carolina. In fact, she said her campaign has just begun. Well, she's delusional. And increasingly, I believe the American public are waking up to the fact that Nikki Haley is what they call controlled opposition. In other words, she appears to be on the Republican side. She appears to be opposition to the Democrats, but all her money's coming from these radical leftist pools that want to destroy America, and she's playing their game. So Nikki Haley is, I think, a very, very negative influence in this entire election, and she's ruining any potential she has with conservative voters to have a career in politics. And she's playing all this. She's now brown person. She's a native Indian. She's a victim. She had to suffer because of discrimination. All these. She's playing all the Democratic themes right now, all the identity politics. And it's really pretty disgusting. But she's going to continue to fight on, and that's the major story. There's a good story on Epoch Times today about it, in which the Epoch Times is featuring the 5 takeaways from the Trump wins. That's a big takeaway. And then you've got the others that are, Nikki Haley is vowing to fight on. And if we really take a look hard at what's going on in this election, I think you can see that it's not really going to be anything but Donald Trump. Donald Trump's going to take it away. And he is by far and away sweeping the country. And this Biden, the other takeaway, one of the 5 takeaways was that Biden avoided embarrassment simply by not being on the ballot. They organized a write-in campaign. He got 60% of the Democratic votes. Biden is completely out of the picture as far as I can see. He's in 2020, he barely campaigned. Of course, they had the pandemic on at that time. But the point is, he's not going to be able to campaign. I don't think Biden could give a coherent speech. It would be an embarrassment. He certainly can't answer questions. This guy is a complete joke. And he's president of the United States. Well, the Democrats are now a neo-Marxist party. They're out to destroy the United States. And I think people are catching on to this. So independents did turn out for Haley. That's another takeaway. But also, the Democrats voted for her. And her vowing to fight on is ridiculous. Trump is going to continue sweeping across the country. He may be the first to just sweep the primaries in a long time. So this is not going to be a contest. And the GOP has got to understand that the donors, the people who put up money for these campaigns, are going to go to Trump. They're not going to continue in the Republican side to support Haley. Haley's going to get all of her money now from dark money pools controlled by the Democrats, who are trying to again influence the election by making Trump look bad with all these indictments. Everything they're doing to Trump only increases his popularity. And I think it's going to be a walkaway here for Donald Trump. Now, Chris, you might have a comment on this because you were watching it very carefully last night as well and watching all the commentaries and everything going on. So you want to add in your 2 cents here? I'd welcome it.
Now, did you see Nikki Haley's victory lap, or at least her claiming, "Hey, we did really well. We were amazing." And she did say she's staying in the race because she's a fighter and she's scrappy.
We've only begun to fight.
Right. So this controlled opposition, she must be. There must be a defibrillator for her campaign somewhere along the line. Somebody's holding it. Somebody has an IV. They're holding that and pumping whatever money or whatever needs to be done, whatever media coverage needs to happen for Nikki Haley. Like you said, controlled opposition, but it hasn't been more obvious than this. She doesn't have to walk around patting herself on the back for being slaughtered in the New Hampshire campaign. She could say, "Look, we didn't do so well. We did show some numbers. I'm staying in the campaign. Vote for me. I want to present myself as an alternative." If she did that, that would be fine because, again, as a voter, I do not like to see coronations. I prefer to see a competition. I want to hear what other people have to say. Thing is, with Nikki Haley, she's patting herself on the back over this instead of saying, "Hey, let's move forward. We had a bad day, but see you in South Carolina."
Yeah, well, this is going to become a joke, and she's going to become a joke. And I don't see that she's going to have any possibility of traction at all. By the way, another story came out yesterday about this GOP chair, another rhino in Arizona, a guy named Jeff DeWitt, who is going to try to bribe Kari Lake to stay out of politics. There's a recording which DeWitt says to her, "Name your price to sit out for a couple of years." And and DeWitt was in the White House taking pictures with Trump and all that. He says, "I'm off the Trump train." He said, "I'm DeSantis," he said in a recorded phone call, in which he also said to her, "Name your price." And she tried to bribe her to stay out of politics.
You see what's happening here. You see what's happening. The establishment in the Republican Party wants to regain control. The problem is the voters, the rank and file, and those people who were disaffected by their own party for the last 20 years, 25 years, are saying no more. We're going to vote for people who we consider free thinkers. We're going to vote for people who we consider outside the line, outside the spectrum. And this is where Kari Lake comes in. This is where Donald Trump comes in. This is where you had some other people. And I'm going to say on the Democrat side, there were independents in Pennsylvania who voted for John Fetterman for that same reason. They want to see outsiders. They want to see people they perceive as free thinkers, people who will think on their own and bring that to Washington rather than establishment cronies.
Yeah, Fetterman's another one who belongs in some kind of an institution.
Well, hold on a second. Now, Fetterman, interestingly, he's having these lucid moments about.
Yeah, right. Occasionally has a lucid moment. Okay.
But the funny thing is, he's recovered and he's starting to make sense, which means he has been and is going to continue to be shunned by the Democrats. So this could be interesting.
Well, and it's not so much I think they're looking for out of the box. I think the GOP has gotten to be a Democrat light. They're the liberal. They're free spending. Even Mike Johnson, okay, here's another budget. Here's another. Kick the can down the road. Just spend more money. It's a lot easier to spend more money than it is to have budget control or $1 trillion on interest payments are going to restrict the United States. $34 trillion debt. We're debasing the dollar. We're doing it fast. And it just is ridiculous. But I think the real message is that the people who will vote for the GOP are voting for people like Donald Trump, who wants to save America, where it's becoming clear the Democrats want to destroy America. And the Republicans are going along with the ride because they're all spending money and everybody is corrupt. They're making huge amounts of money just trading on the stock market because in Congress you can do insider trading and it's not, they can commit that crime, but you can't do it on Wall Street.
There's another factor that's going to take effect in the general election, and that's going to hurt Joe Biden. And Democrats know it, and so does Donald Trump. I don't know if anybody else does, but the fact is, there are people who I would consider Obama centrists and Obama Republicans who voted for Obama in 2008 and voted for Trump in 2016 for the simple reason that they wanted somebody who would who promised to get things done differently in Washington. That's what Obama promised. He said, "We're going to change things." They were hoping change the way they would do business. No, he wanted to fundamentally change America, but Trump represents that now, changing the way Washington does business.
Well, in a sense, except that, look, wait a minute.
Right.
Biden has done nothing. Period.
That's what I'm saying. Biden's a joke.
Biden's a joke.
Right.
But Obama doubled the size of the agencies.
I'm talking campaign. I'm not talking, talking campaign, not talking real.
Obama's campaign was all hype.
Right.
Hip hop.
Right.
And it was not, people bought it.
Right. People bought it.
It was sold and packaged, sold. He was the Messiah. He was we are the ones who we've been waiting for. All these things Obama said when he campaigned.
Part of that has to do with his opposition too. Okay.
Well, look, Obama, as far as I'm concerned, was CIA from the beginning.
Okay,
fair. He's got a legend. His life story doesn't make any sense.
Agreed.
Can't find the documents. So we've been basically living in a Truman Show here for a while, with the CIA behind the scenes pulling the strings.
Right.
And this got to end. I want to move. Let's play this next clip from Harari. This guy is really pretty frightening. Harari is one of the top spokespersons for the World Economic Forum, and he is about as scary as they get. Let's hear what he has to say. Go ahead and play it.
Maybe most legal systems are based on this idea, this belief in human rights. But human rights are just like heaven and like God. It's just a fictional story that we've invented and spread around. It may be a very nice story. It may be a very attractive story. We want to believe it, but it's just a story. It's not a reality. It is not a biological reality. Just as jellyfish and woodpeckers and ostriches have no rights, Homo sapiens have no rights also. Take a human, cut him open, look inside, you find their blood, and you find the heart and lungs and kidneys, but you don't find there any rights. The only place you find rights is in the fictional stories that humans have invented and spread around. And the same thing is also true in the political field. States and nations are also, like human rights and like God and like heaven, they too are just stories. A mountain is a reality. You can see it, you can touch it, you can even smell it. But Israel or the United States, they are just stories, very powerful stories we might want to believe very much, but still they are just stories. You can't really see the United States. You cannot touch it. You cannot smell it.
You might think it's something new, but it's really not. This is the postmodernism, Baudrillard, all these French coffee shop intellectuals sitting out in the cafes, sipping their espresso, coming up with ideas. The basic idea of postmodernism is that everything is a construct, a language game. In other words, Baudrillard, who was one of these French intellectuals, wrote a book during the Iraq War, 2000, George H.W. Bush, saying that the Iraq War didn't happen. Well, it was clearly happening. But what he meant was that the narrative, the construct of the war, which was that we were going to get Saddam Hussein removed, and we were going in there because Iraq had invaded Kuwait. Well, the point was, we didn't get rid of Saddam Hussein. We didn't get to Baghdad. We stopped, and we declared a victory. So the narrative about what that war was about was not really what was going on. That was Baudrillard's point. But now Harari is saying that all of these things are fictions because we can't see them. This is very destructive. This is the combination of neo-Marxism and postmodernism. It's a central theme of my book, because we will show the cover, the truth about cultural Maoism, neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. The point is that in these constructs, anything that has to do with an idea is that these people believe, and Harari would believe, is subjective. It's just your value judgment. It's just your idea. So there are no human rights because we can't see them. There's no God because we can't see them. He's assuming that physical reality exists because it's tangible. Well, the point is that we see physical reality the way it is because this is how we live in time-space. But it's really just energy. You break it down into the subatomic level, it's all energy. It takes various forms. But human rights, constructs, nations, God, anything spiritual, these people want to deny exists. And they want to deny absolute values exist. There's no good and evil. This is the beginning of woke. This is where you can say, well, there's no such thing as binary male, female. It can have as many genders as you want, because gender is how you behave in sex, and however you behave, that's what your gender is. If you want to, let's not even describe the kind of bizarre things human beings can figure out to do. But and these postmodernists in the Frankfurt schools celebrate Marquis de Sade as liberated sex. Well, if you've ever read any Marquis de Sade, it's very, very dark. Sex is mostly sadomasochism. People are getting hurt for the others to have sexual enjoyment. It is not normal behavior. It's very destructive behavior. And these people, if they listen to, are seductive because they want you to give up the idea of God. Call it sky fairies. There's no sky fairies going to save you. Well, these people may find out about sky fairies when they face hell, because hell and heaven, these good and evil, are fundamental and they do exist, despite what these nutcases want us to believe. Now, I want to go on to the next story. Chris, do you want to comment on that quickly? Because I think this is a very important point. I've been on this point for quite a while, and I want people to understand that the major aim going on right now is to destroy our sense of objective reality, good and bad, so that they can now create this confused and demoralized population that has no fixed beliefs. That way they can be manipulated and marched into slavery.
True.
Chris?
But they also these manipulators are trying to tell those who they're sheep, if you will, that they're the smart ones. They're the intellectual ones. You must feel smarter by following what we say, because you can't see and touch a god or a religion. What you can see is a state, and you can see celebrity, and you can see man. You must worship those. And if you do that, since it's tangible, you feel you are much smarter, and we're going to keep telling you how smart you are and how stupid the other people are. Now, you don't want to be the dummy in a crowd. If you have no confidence and you're bred to believe you have to go along with the crowds or feel like you want to sit at the cool kids table all the time, that's what these people tap into when it comes to manipulating the masses into following anything they say.
Yeah, well, they don't believe in states, because states are another construct.
The state is a construct, but it's their construct.
Well, they want control, and so therefore they're going to do control with digital currencies, and they're going to monitor every step you take. They're going to have 15-minute prisons where you can't go outside of 15 minutes. Your electronics don't work. The social scores, all these things, their constructs are all totalitarian.
Right, thus creating their state to worship. That's
okay,
well,
I'll grant you that. And then in that sense, they're hypocrites, because they're creating a state that they say doesn't exist. They're creating a prison that they say doesn't exist. But by the time you're being marched into it and starved to death and monitored and then socially turned off and let to die, have pandemic, and you're cemented into your house to die, no possibility of getting food. These are the kinds of things these monsters will do.
It's telling that Harari is trying to convince people that humans have no rights. And basically, humans do have a right to live, breathe, and okay, if you want to go with the construct of pursuing happiness, the fact is humans do have a right, have a right not to be violated, as the Chinese communists are doing to their political opposition, throwing them in prison and stealing their organs and torturing. People have a right to not have to go through a room 731 from World War II, from the Imperial Japanese Empire. These are basic rights, but what this guy is telling you is you don't have those rights. So what are they going to do with us in the future when they deem us useless?
They're going to harvest our organs and sell them.
Could be.
That's what they want to do. They want to take babies, have abortions very, very late term, harvest the organs, kill the baby.
They're upset that Soylent Green wasn't done on time. I think I used that joke before, but it bears repeating.
Well, all right. Let's go on to the what I think next story. The article is being run about what a second Trump term would mean for U.S. oil and gas. I think the narrative now that's beginning to develop is the inevitability of Trump being candidate and the near inevitability of Trump being president again. This is kind of sweeping the country right now, and I think there is an overwhelming desire to get rid of these demon Democrats. You know, it's insane what Biden wants us to do. So this whole idea of electric vehicles is a dead duck. They don't work. We're going through a bad winter. Oh, by the way, of course, the bad winter is the cold is caused by global warming. It's insanity. These people are nuts. You know, carbon dioxide is a minor molecule in the atmosphere. 0.04% of all the atmosphere is carbon dioxide. And it has a minor impact upon the weather, much less than, say, the sun. And these people want to deny that the sun is the major source of heat and light on Earth, and it is. I'm sorry about that. This big yellow thing in the sky is not just an ornament. It's not a sky ornament. Look up there that we can, design to make it look pretty. And if you don't believe that, at night it's cooler. Why? Because the sun isn't shining. Okay, it's very simple. But these people, when they can confuse you and not educate you, not let you learn anything except your pronouns, come out with a PhD and all you've done is write about pronouns, you're useless. But that's what they want. They want a society where the people are useless. And the universities are generating that. Now, this story about what would happen with Trump coming back in is a celebration of the fact that we need hydrocarbon fuels. And by the way, they're not fossil fuels. No fossil ever made a barrel of oil. You don't say, when Aunt Hazel dies, you don't say, please line her casket with rubber because Aunt Hazel is going to turn into diesel fuel number 2. Doesn't happen. When we die, we decompose into our primary chemical constituents. We rot. We don't go to a higher form of energy. That would violate the second law of thermodynamics. Pretty simple, really. We don't go to a higher form of energy. Without constant input of energy, we deteriorate. Okay, so that's fundamental. Now, what they're saying is Trump would eliminate all these regulations. The Bidens have put in regulations about electric vehicles. They have regulations about how oil and natural gas are gotten out of the earth. We have to have lower emissions. We can't have flares. They have every one of their agencies passing regulations that make it more difficult to either extract oil and natural gas and coal or to use them. And this is the way you shut down a society. This is the way you have people now eating bugs. Okay, and the next story, so if Trump comes back in, there's an anticipation that we'll go back to drilling. In fact, even under Biden, we're hitting new exporting historical targets. And again, we're pumping right now. During the Biden administration, U.S. crude productions hit a new record high of 13 million barrels per day. That's despite all of Biden's restrictions. And the world, if you don't believe it, take a look at India and China. They're getting all the coal they can get. They're getting all the hydrocarbon fuels they can get. And they're laughing their you-know-what off over the fact that Germany is deindustrializing, shutting down its nuclear plants, and deciding, we're going to save the environment by not emitting carbon dioxide. These people, this is going to be one of the most ridiculous ideas in human history. Just get beyond this period of time. And by the way, this woke will pass. The DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, is now permeating the airline industries, and that we're about to have catastrophic crashes. The doors are popping out of Boeing planes, and the companies that make these doors are all DEI, running commercials about how they've got this diverse a force of employees. And isn't this wonderful? We got one of these, one of these, one of these, and one of these. Well, you can't have enough diversity. You have green people. Well, we said there are no green people. Wait a minute. Under gender, and why can't you have race indetermination? In other words, somebody black could tell you that they're really green. If you don't believe it, you're denying their identity. You have to celebrate the fact that even though they look black, they're green. Or how about if they are orange? Or how about if they are purple? I mean, it can be any color they want to be, because it's, race is just a construct. And so therefore, just like sex, they can be, and by intersectionality, so they could be a woman, that's one point, because the women are oppressed. Then it could be a black woman, that's another point. Then it could be a black woman, transsexual, that's another point. And then you could really not be black, but you're purple because you identify as being some kind of an animal that was once purple. Okay, this is schizophrenia. And if we're being asked to live in a schizophrenic world like this, it's going to be disaster. The rationality, and when this all passes, it's going to seem to future historians like, how did these people get to be this insane? Well, it was carefully architected. And again, I show you how it was architected in that book I've written on the truth about neo-Marxism. Neo-Marxism is Marxism that has been changed to be a culture war, because the economic war that Marx predicted never happened. The workers of the world did not rise up against capital. Capital shared the wealth, labor unions and other aspects of sharing the wealth with workers, and we build a middle class. Marx was absolutely wrong. He failed. Gramsci, Italian communist between the two wars, imprisoned in these nutcase notebooks, said, well, we've got to attack the culture. And then by the time I got to the Frankfurt School, they said, yes, that's right, because we're all repressed because we are made to work in a capitalist society, so we repress sex. Let's just liberate sex, and therefore we will become self-actualized. Marcuse, who wrote Eros and Civilization in the 1960s, actually said he wanted uninhibited sex, anything you want. And that would be the release of libido, and the new high level of human beings would be reached. Machines could do all the work. I mean, these people are nutcases. And with 8 billion people on the planet, they intend to depopulate. This guy Harari says most human beings are useless. He'd be happy to eliminate billions of people. And again, this is very frightening stuff, but you have to take these people seriously because they mean it. Now, what's already happening, the next story, is that in the United States today, people are having a hard time paying their utility bills. Because again, once we go to this transition to green energy, which will not do a single thing to help the climate, I can guarantee it will not make a difference. We've had ice ages 600 million years ago. Carbon dioxide was much higher in the atmosphere than it is today. We had ice ages over those 600 million years, and the ice was there despite the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide increases in the air follow warming. They don't cause it. Okay, now this the whole aspect of not being able to pay energy bills. So the Biden administration came out with this Bidenomics campaign. They've been running this public relations campaign saying Bidenomics works, investing in America. In other words, don't believe what you can see, believe what we tell you. We're giving you the narrative. We're giving you the construct. We are the masters of the Truman Show. At the World Economic Forum, they were complaining because all these internet opportunities have given people a voice, and the big corporate media no longer control the narrative. In fact, people are beginning to realize what lies we've been fed for decades. Okay, so when you look at the Bidenomics failures, the polling data from Real Clear Politics shows that despite the PR blitz, Biden's ratings have continued to deteriorate. It's polling. Polling is dismal. And 1 out of every 6 ratepayers and people paying for electricity, 1 out of 6 are behind on their energy bills. So residential utility debt hit $20.3 billion The new record was hit. I guess that was hit last year in 2023. So when you take a look at the cost of energy and the fact that there are 7 million households today in the United States on utility bill assistance, we're looking at dramatically rising costs of household fuels, propane, kerosene, and firewood, as well as electric prices, all remain near record highs. Why? Because we're engaging in this insanity of trying to get rid of hydrocarbon fuels. It's a really bad idea. Hydrocarbon fuels are not fossil fuels. They are natural to the earth. They are combustible. In energy physics, they have a much more powerful energy power because they don't have to be stored. They don't have to go into a battery. They're easier to transmit. You can build hydrocarbon power plants near or in the areas close to where the electricity is being used. With these systems that require the storing of energy from wind and solar into a battery, you've got energy loss just from the process of storing and transmitting that energy to another stored facility where it waits to be used. With hydrocarbon fuels, you don't have it already in the form of electricity. You've just got the natural hydrocarbon fuel and ready to be combusted when you need it. It's easier to store, it's easier to use, and it's more powerful. And by the way, even Toyota is saying in the future, no more than 30% of all cars could be electric. They're going to try to do hydrogen. That's also not going to work. Hybrids may have a possibility because the hybrid is generating the electricity for the battery. It's not one of these big, huge lithium batteries. The whole system actually does work better, and hybrids have a possibility. But the fundamental power of a diesel engine or a gasoline engine, where we had better engines a few years ago when we had real powerful engines, V8s and the like in cars. Today, they're going to all of these, your car dies as soon as you stop, and they have to start it up again to get it going. They have all these leftist features built into it, as if that's going to really do anything to save any climate. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. You constantly read the news, and you're reporting this leftist nonsense, which are nothing but their constructs designed to imprison us. One final story, and then, Chris, I want you to comment on this story too. The Israeli military has now been under pressure worldwide to stop the war, and pretty soon I believe they will have another truce. Pressure's intense, and Netanyahu knows that he can only go so far. This happens every time Israel gets attacked, and they go to war to defend themselves. They get allowed to go to war for a little while, then the world pressure shuts them down, and Hamas returns into the Gaza. So the story coming out of Israel is the Israel Defense Forces are now admitting they cannot destroy all the Hamas and Islamic Jihad tunnels under Gaza. It turns out that these are much more extensive than were initially reported. The tunnels under the Gaza Strip were there even before Hamas was founded in 1987, and they're probably going to be there after this war as well. Israeli intelligence made another incorrect assessment of the tunnels, which they thought were only about 250 miles. They're probably close to 450 miles of tunnels under Gaza. And Gaza is this narrow little strip of land in Israel on the Mediterranean, north of Egypt. Now, the fact is that these tunnels are able to be lived in. They've got toilets, they've got showers, they've got food, and Hamas can live in these tunnels and hide from the Israeli forces, which do not get down into the tunnels. So whether or not we've completely rooted Hamas out of even the north part of the Gaza is not certain. So the Israeli intelligence is going to have to admit not only that they ignored warnings about the October 7th attack, they underestimated the power of Hamas to launch that kind of a brutal attack. The left in Israel has disarmed largely the Israeli population. So when they were attacked, a lot of these Jews had no way to protect themselves. They were slaughtered. They were burned alive. They were raped. They were beheaded. The violence was brutal. It was medieval. And so the idea that they're going to completely destroy Hamas, given the pressure to stop the war, given the overwhelming presence that Hamas was able to establish before the war, means to me that there's going to be only a temporary victory here for Israel. And as long as Hamas remains committed to destroy Israel, as long as Hamas commands the love of the universities and the American public, that Hamas marches going all get the Palestinian, from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean. They want a Palestinian state. Well, that would only be a conditional move to destroy Israel. And the two-state solution is out of the picture as long as Hamas remains committed to destroy Israel. Behind the scenes, you've got Iran, which the Biden administration now has returned billions of dollars to, taken out of sanctions. John Kerry architected this policy with Obama when he was Secretary of State, giving an agreement where Iran knows it can build a nuclear weapon. It's well along the way to doing so. And returning money to Hamas, to Iran, letting Iran getting back into oil production. Iran's now getting to be one of the top OPEC oil producers. That's money they're getting. They push it into terrorism. You've got Iran supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Israel's been again fighting with Hezbollah on a limited capacity in Lebanon. You've got money going into the Houthi rebels from Iran in Yemen. And yesterday, the Iranian forces did take over an oil tanker that was headed to Turkey. So the Red Sea is largely closing to commercial shipping, which is now to get to Europe, going to have to go around the Cape of Good Hope and tip of Africa in order to get to India and China, which costs more money, increases the time and the cost of that trip by about a third. It will cause disruptions in the supply chain. It's going to make it extremely more difficult for China, more expensive to import goods and to export goods. And China is already going through major economic turmoil with its own property market collapsing, with strikes and labor strikes going on all over China right now. And China is about to have a major economic crash. I want to end and give Chris time to comment, but what is beginning to happen right now is the beginning, and get this free book, because everything I've written in this book is beginning to happen right now, how the coming global crash will create an historic gold rush. I wrote it with Dean Heskin, who is the head of Swiss America. You get a free copy of this book by calling Swiss America at 1-800-519-6268. I'll repeat that number, 1-800-519-6268. And what I point out is when we go through these economic turmoils, as we're beginning to go through right now, they're trying to prop up the economy until the 2024 election's over. I don't know that they will succeed. And when we go through these, gold tends to double in price. Gold today is trading at $2,051 an ounce, almost $52 an ounce. It's consistently now for several weeks been over $2,000 an ounce. And this does predict that gold is going to rise dramatically so that $2,100 an ounce is in view. And as it sets new technical highs, you're going to see a surge of gold over the next few weeks and months. And if you get some gold now, it's probably a good idea. You'll increase the purchasing power of those dollars, which are only going to decrease in purchasing power as this economic crisis continues to unfold. And it's going to continue to unfold. We've got a massive commercial real estate bubble that is going to burst because the office building, some $2 trillion worth, going to be refinanced over the next little bit of time, is underwater. When they're refinanced, they're not going to get enough money in the refinancing to pay off the interest on the previous loan. So a lot of these buildings are going to go into foreclosures, which will cause foreclosures or losses in the commercial securitized versions of these commercial real estate loans. They bundle them together and sell them as securities on Wall Street. And they hold those securities in banks and investment funds and other retirement accounts, all of which will take losses. This bubble is inevitably going to burst worldwide on this credit balloon. Chris?
Oh, it's going to get bad. Well, we have heard different predictions about gold later on this year, rising and where that's going to go. We also hear a lot of predictions about how the economy is going to go. Mind you, this is an election year, so a lot of things can change before November with a bit of manipulation. We'll see what happens. We're hearing, when we hear the government or the Bidenomics engineers telling us that inflation's down, consumer spending is up, well, that has to correlate with the fact that, yes, inflation is down from Biden-inflation highs, and spending is up because if the dollar is worth less, then you have to spend more on food, utilities, and of course, any kind of products for the holidays.
When they crank out the public relations, the reality is bad.
Right.
And the only reason they're pumping Bidenomics is because they know it's a failure. And they're just trying to create another word construct. So Harari will say, oh, of course, the economy is that also a fiction? The economy, is it also a fiction?
Yeah, Harari. One thing on Harari, how many times has that guy been beaten up in school and thrown in a locker room that he's this bitter about people having rights? I mean, you see the old movies where the supervillain becomes one because he was picked on in school or somebody said something, too many mean stuff to him. And he's like, oh, I'm going to get you when I grow up, or when I get in power, I'm going to come back and take you all down. This is what I think of Harari.
You're probably right. But the point is, this guy is destructive. This guy is dangerous. And he's spreading his lies, and he's very articulate. He's got great images. He can talk about, you open them up and you see the heart and the lungs. He creates these visual images, but he doesn't create these visual images, which are also mind constructs, by the way. He doesn't create those about God or anything spiritual. No. This guy is creating his own world of ideas on the premise that worlds of ideas are fiction. So he's creating the fiction he wants you to believe. That's the hypocrisy of Harari.
Oh, that's the funny thing. I mean, the only fiction he creates in me is us, again, throwing him in the locker and just keeping him there, or picking him last for the kickball team, that sort of thing.
Well, what scares me about him is the World Economic Forum and how they're saying, and if you listen to some of their speeches, how we're going to have digital currency, we're going to have central bank digital currency, we're going to have all this. We have to have vaccine passports. We're control. And this is not, and then just depopulate. There's too many people. The bottom line on this is we are in the beginning of World War III. And I don't see any solution to the Israeli problem right now. I think it's just waiting until the next war. And these wars don't solve anything, but it's building to a cataclysmic war. We've lost the whole battle in Ukraine, and now they're talking about recruiting 500,000 new soldiers in Ukraine. I don't know where they're going to get them. And we can't get out of Congress, and we shouldn't get out of Congress spending more money on Ukraine because it'll just be stolen. We don't have an accounting of the money that's been spent. Corruption is massive. Biden is obviously corrupt. The Department of Justice is doing nothing about it. People are massively losing trust in the institutions. No wonder Trump is gaining.
Last week, I heard Joe Biden speaking. Was it Joe? No, it was Anthony Blinken speaking to the Council of Mayors, or the mayors meeting. He was telling them how great how we need to put more money into Ukraine and whatever else we're doing, but mainly Ukraine, because that money comes back to defense contractors. That money comes back to companies in these cities that need some money coming in. So the idea is these guys are going. They admit, or at least they're actually proud of the fact that they're feeding them the so-called military-industrial complex and using our taxpayer money and using human lives to do so.
If a whole point is just to have wars for money,
right?
And we've got 1,200 soldiers yet in Iraq. They're being constantly attacked, including by Iran, and we still have these troops can't go anywhere. What are they there for? We abandoned Afghanistan. We left all that material there. Billions of dollars worth of military equipment just left there. Biden administration and the military today, given its DEI, how You've got the president of United Airlines in drag, making a fool of himself in public, and everybody's supposed to applaud that. I mean, the guy is in a dress and behaving bizarrely. This is the CEO of United Airlines, saying, "Come fly with me." I mean, this is ridiculous. It's a joke.
The left, I guess we didn't take Bill Clinton that seriously when he said he was looking forward to the day where the U.S. is not the strongest nation in the world. The idea is, instead of bringing the other nations up, they decided to kneecap the rest of us, or kneecap our own nation. So that's what's going on.
Payday to the pharmaceutical industries.
Yeah.
Then we give payday to the military-industrial complex, and then we do another false something or other. We with solar, wind, and solar. We give a payday to all the supporters of Biden, who do these failed plants. So you can't build the turbine farms out in the ocean around the world because they're too costly. And when the government subsidies come around, you just got a lot of junk. It doesn't work, and these ideas don't work. We have generals in dresses and wearing wigs. This is, we're a laughing stock. And if you've ever seen a gay parade, what defeats these people is biblical. Look at the fruit of their tree, what they produce. And if you've ever seen a gay parade, it isn't just two men that love each other. Isn't that sweet? Go look at what acts they perform. Go look at them in their whips and their chains and in their sacrilegious sexual practices designed to be sacrilegious. In other words, offending God. Let's wrap it up, Chris. Any last comment here?
Oh, as I said before, we should learn the lessons that we did not heed back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and take these people very, very seriously. Perhaps they would have been as marginalized as they should be. These World Economic Forum types should have just been a coffee clutch if we were paying attention for the last 30 years. Now we have to fight this. And I know that the term civil war was thrown around, but this is a worldwide civil war between the free world and those who wish to control it.
Well, it's not a fighting war, and it's not going to be one in a fighting war.
Yes,
it's going to be one in the world of ideas, and it's going to be a world run where either we have God back on the throne of God, or we have Harari on the throne of God. Take your pick. Okay.
Yeah.
In the end, okay. In the end, God always wins. God will win here too, and it's going to be crazy for a while. In Fear of 2 Chronicles 7:14, join me in getting down on our knees and asking God for forgiveness for letting it get this far. We've killed far too many millions of babies, torn apart in the womb, offending God who gave those babies life. We've done far too much of taking God out of our schools, out of our lives, out of our hearts. We've got divorces, broken marriages. We've got children without mothers and fathers. This is a disaster, and it needs to get restored. I believe the nation's ready for revival, and I believe it's time that we throw these demons back into hell where they belong. Otherwise, we're going to have thermonuclear war, because that's what these people are capable of producing. That's the most effective way to get rid of the billions of people they don't think we need. I pray that day never comes. Take a look at our website. We've got a lot of good things. You can see the Substack, which you can access right there at JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. With Dean Heskin in one of the videos from Swiss America. I'm taking these issues very seriously. You can see also I am selling books from my personal author's copies. So you can go to the books and I will sign copies and send them to you. You can just buy them right there through what they call these e-pipes. These are just cell phone applications that we can put on the internet. I'm going to be doing a lot more marketing of these and trying to get these to be widely used. They're very, very powerful technology. And you can buy the books directly through there. The books that I'm offering, like Atomic Iran and Black Gold Stranglehold, were books I wrote about 2005, 2006. But everything I wrote about Atomic Iran is happening now. Black Gold Stranglehold was my first book on abiotic oil. And these are books I have in stock and at Coup d'etat, as Chris is showing you. And if you go to these e-pipes on the website, you can buy them. I'll sign them and mail them to you. I'll also take a look at My Vital C and the sponsors. My Vital C is this miracle molecule, carbon 60. I've been taking it for 5 years. I'm 77 years old. Colors come back into my hair with their hair products. I'm not coloring it, just the color restored. I feel younger. These are, I'm more active now than I think I've ever been. These carbon-60 products for human consumption come either in avocado oil or in coconut oil or in olive oil. I preferred an olive oil. And they're also products for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs love them. Our cats and dogs have loved them. And if you want to see how good they are, just try giving them to your cat and dog. And the degree they like them and react to them is also a degree to which the human system reacts to it. And it's very positive. Give it a try. Dr. Jerome Corsi, we will be back tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, June 24th, 2024. Thank you for joining us on thetruthcentral.com. Please like the program, share the program, pass the word along. So far, I'm yet on YouTube. They haven't taken me off yet. Many other channels, Rumble, just look, BitChute, Cloud Hub, also audio only on Apple Podcasts, etc. Just look around. You'll up on our homepage in the right corner. You'll see all the different channels in which we're broadcasting, and you can pick which one you like best. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. God bless.